So today we're going to be talking about Smith Cosmetics. I have always wanted to try Smith brushes, but to be honest with you, they are a little bit on the pricey side, but they are definitely well worth the price. I will tell you guys that what makes these brushes different is that they are handcrafted, and the handle itself is made from one piece of wood, which means that it is definitely sturdy. It's a very lightweight feeling handle, but there is definitely weight on the ferrule and the actual hair. The handle has 6 layers of an antibacterial coating, which means that it's very hygienic for you to scoop up your product and apply it to your face or your hand or whatever your little heart desires. So most handles are made from several pieces of wood that have been basically ground and put together so that they formed a solid handle. As I mentioned, these are not like that. This is one solid piece of wood. Again, these brushes may seem like they are pricey, but you are getting a really nice quality brush. And I will tell you guys that I have been pleasantly surprised by some of these brushes, and we're gonna jump into that in a second. All right, guys, so we're just gonna jump in, and I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about some of the brushes that I have been loving. I keep the brushes that I use in this little container, and the reason why I'm pointing this out is I do have other containers on my vanity that I do have other brushes. They're mostly MAC, but as you guys know, MAC and Estee Lauder are going synthetic, and I did purchase several of the MAC brushes and I was not satisfied at all. I think I ended up keeping one of the brushes, which was, I think, a MAC 133. It's the small brush that I use to apply my powder. So anyway, enough about MAC, and let's jump into Smith. So the reason why I decided to purchase some Smith brushes is because they do have some synthetic brushes, but they also have natural hair brushes. As you guys know, MAC and Estee Lauder have decided to go synthetic, and I did try several of the MAC brushes, but I wasn't satisfied with them. I ended up keeping a 133, but I returned everything else because I just couldn't. I couldn't get down with them. And I'm not going to go into it. If you guys want to see what I think, there is a video on the synthetic brushes. So we're going to just jump in and talk about Smith Cosmetics. The first brush I'm going to talk about is the Smith 220 brush, and this is an eye brush. This brush is meant for blending, believe it or not, and it's really nice for applying color in the crease, but I specifically love to use it for blending shadow under the lower lash line. I thought this brush was going to be a little bit more on the dense side, but it's actually very soft, and you can use it for blending. I have tried it for that. It is amazing. I really love this brush. Like the other brushes, it has a nice little weight to it. The ferrule itself has some weight, so it doesn't feel like a cheap brush. It feels very nice. The handle itself is a little bit on the thicker side and just kind of the things out at the end. So I was really excited about this one. Since we started with eye brushes, I'm going to continue that trend. And the next brush I'm going to talk about is the Smith 232 brush. And as you guys can see, I have used it. It is a thicker brush. It is very fluffy and it tapers just a little bit right at the tip. I like to use this brush to deposit color in the crease and to blend shadow out. I've also used it to actually apply shadow all over my lid because it is a little bit dense. It is nice and fluffy to where you could blend, but you can also deposit color because it is a little bit more dense than, we'll say, a 224 by MAC. Like all of the other brushes, it thins out at the end and it has weight right here in the center. This, I have to say, I really like it. I thought I was going to have an issue with it at first because it is so large, but it's actually really nice and it does give you precision with the tip. So the baby sibling of the brush I just showed you is the Smith 230, and as you guys can see, it's a little bit smaller and it's definitely a little bit more dense than the other brush. And just so that you guys can see the difference in size, there they are. If you want more precision, if you want more of an intense application, this is probably, the 230 is probably your best bet because it is a little bit more dense. It's not as fluffy as the 232. And they are both equally nice. And again, you're still getting the same handle, the same quality, and they're absolutely amazing. Again, this is more, the 232 is more fluffy and the 230 is a little bit more dense. I feel like the 230 reminds me of a MAC 217. So if you're wondering how they compare, now you know. So a brush that I wasn't really sure that I'd love is the Smith 256. And this brush is meant for placing color on the lid. So this is supposed to pack color, and I really thought that I wouldn't like it because I'm used to a MAC 239. That is my favorite brush to apply shadow to the lid. And this one, just even looking at it, it looks soft. It looks like it isn't going to pack the pigment on a lid as nicely as a 239. I was wrong. So part of it is, if you look at the actual hair, it's layered. So you're getting just like the short hair building up to this tip. And it's nice because this tip actually allows you to get really close into that inner corner. You're able to place color in the crease, and it does pack on color. I will find that it requires more effort to pack the color on with this brush than it does with a MAC 239. But being that the MAC 239 is now totally different and it doesn't function the way it did, this is a great brush to try out. It is very soft, but it does pack color onto the lid, and it blends it out also. It doesn't minimize the coverage or the pigmentation that you're getting, but it does definitely help blend the color as you're just moving it throughout the lid space. So I really like this brush. I have two other brushes that are for blending or detail work, and that's the Smith 247 and 235. So let me show you what these guys look like. This is the 235 here, and as you guys can see, it's pointed and it's flat. It almost looks like it would be a MAC 217, but it is flat. It's not as fluffy or as round, and it does come to this pointed end. So this brush is really nice for building that crease color, also for packing color on the lid. It is a little bit more on the dense side. You can also use this to smudge the lower lash line. So far so good, and I really haven't played with that one all that much, to be honest with you. I just picked those up, that one and the 247, because I felt like I needed to try them. This one is a 247, and it is also a flat brush, and this one does the same exact thing that the other brush does, but it's slightly smaller. And again, you can really pack color into that crease or the outer corner, or smudge shadows on the lower lash line. Multi-purpose brushes, pretty amazing. I have two more eye brushes I want to talk about. One is the Smith 212, which is their tight lining brush. It's just a very small, dense, flat brush. You could use this for liner, or you can use this for applying color to your waterline. You can use this to smudge out shadow. It is intended for tight lining, but I have used it more for detail work on the lower lash line. I'm not one to really, tight line, so I probably wouldn't use it for that. I've also used this for applying concealer under my brow, and I really like this brush. Maybe one of these days I'll try it for tight lining, but for now I just haven't used it for that. So the last brush that I want to talk about in terms of eyes is the 202, which is their liner brush. It's so tiny. I was so excited about this brush because I thought it was going to be like my MAC 210, which is one of the thinnest liner brushes I've ever used. And I have tried this for liner, and let me tell you that I'm very disappointed in this brush because the tip is so short that I feel like it's a little too dense to get just a really smooth, precise line. I find that it skips and that my line ends up looking a little bit jagged, and it requires more effort and time to just build that line up and make it look even and pretty. The other thing is, I feel like it doesn't pick up product as evenly as, like, we'll say a MAC 210. This will pick up a heavy amount on one side, and even if you like work the product into the brush, it just doesn't pick up enough product to give you that really smooth line that we're wanting when we apply liner. So it's just not my favorite. Maybe I would use this to really line the inner corner of the eye. I'll try that, but I wouldn't use this to do my entire liner. I tried, and after I saw that no matter how much product I just loaded up on the brush and I kept going over, it's almost a little too firm, so it will remove some of the product. I ended up going back to my 210, so this one I'm not a huge fan of. So I have 3 face brushes that I need to tell you guys about. The first one is, I had to order this one. I believe friendsbeauty.com carries, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Friends Beauty carries Smith Cosmetics. If not, then it's Nigel's Emporium. But this is the Smith 112, and this is their bronzer brush. I've used it for bronzer, and it gives you just a very soft application. It is a little bit on the dense side, but it's also soft enough to just give you a really nice blown out bronzy finish. I've used it to contour, I've used it to highlight, I've used it for blush. I think blush is probably my favorite purpose for this brush, but it is very nice. It's definitely a nice quality, and like all of the brushes, it thins out at the end. It has a nice weight in the center, and it's pretty amazing. And the last 2 brushes I want to talk to you guys about is, they're both face brushes, and the Smith 118 is their powder brush. This is what it looks like, and I've used this to apply powder. I've used this to apply blush, bronzer, also to set my face. I've used this brush quite a bit for different purposes. I think I've even used it for foundation because I still have a little stain there. I like this brush. It's a good all-around brush. The last brush I want to talk about is probably the brush that I questioned the most, and that is the Smith 115 foundation brush. I typically do not like to use brushes for foundation because they tend to shed, just natural wear and tear. But I thought that I would get this really streaky finish, and I was not about that life. So what I ended up doing was I tried this with several different foundations, and every single product that I used with this brush just looked amazing. What I did find was that this brush shed quite a bit, and the other brushes don't really shed. So I thought that, you know, it might have been a defect. I contacted the company, and they were really great. They got back to me right away, and they shipped me a new one. This is a very nice brush. It's dense, the hair is short, and you can buff the product in. It feels really nice. It doesn't feel scratchy at all. None of these brushes feel scratchy. So you could buff the product in. Even if I were to drag the foundation, which I have done, it doesn't streak. It looks beautiful and blended. The other thing about this brush is, because I use it with liquids and creams, I was really concerned that the hair would actually get stained. And at first I started washing it right after I used it, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna take forever to dry. It'll probably be 2 days before it's fully dried, like some of my other brushes. And to my surprise, I would wash this in the morning, and 7 to 8 hours later, it was fully dry and super soft, and there are no stains. This is the one that I've been using. The one I just got in is this guy here. This is the new one. This is the old one, and as you guys can see, this one's really nice and compact, and this one's a little bit more open and wide. And this one has hair just kind of coming out of it everywhere. As you guys can see, it's sticking out a little. So I really think that this one might have been defected. But again, it was something that Smith addressed, took care of, and I'm very happy with the final resolution. So, all right guys, so long story short, I love these brushes. I think they are amazing. Yes, they are a little bit more on the expensive side, but you are getting a high quality handcrafted brush. And I wouldn't use these in my kit because they are so pricey, but I am definitely going to keep them for me and my own personal use. I absolutely love them. So since I've gotten the Smith brushes, I really haven't pulled for a ton of other brushes unless there's something that I feel like I just prefer. So I still use my MAC 135 bronzer brush. Still use it. I'm using my Sephora 98 highlight brush and also my Morphe M510 highlight brush. Those are in my little stash. I use my MAC 137 brush for blush or just like a quick application of a bronzer. It's just a really good brush. I have been using the Smith bronzer brush for blush, but if I want something a little bit softer and diffuse, I go with the MAC brush. My Chikuhodo GSN3. I love this brush. It's honestly, it's amazing, and I really love to just powder with it. So in comparison to the Smith brush, this is a Smith brush. It's a little bit more dense. And the Chikuhodo is slightly larger, more fluffy. It's got powder. So I feel like if I want just like a light dusting, the Chikuhodo is the way to go. And if I want a little bit of a heavier application, then I'll go in with the Smith. Of course, my MAC 221. I just love this brush. I'll always use this brush. I love it. My MAC 210 brush. There is nothing like this brush. Let me show you what the 210 looks like in comparison to the 202 by Smith. As you guys can see, the Smith is shorter, pointier, and looks more dense than the MAC 210. I really wish that this one had some more flexibility to it and just applied the color or the product a little bit better, because I do like that it is small, but 210 all the way. And I've been using my Sephora Pro Full Coverage Precision 67 brush for concealer, because lately Mama's circles are dark and I just go in and I'm pouncing and building coverage with this freaking amazing brush. And of course the MAC 224, because they are some of my favorite brushes. The final brush that I've been using is the beautiful Finish Bare Minerals brush, which looks like this. And I use this for powder. I use this to just kind of touch up. I use it for everything. It's pretty amazing. So this is what my daily routine has consisted of. This is the packaging for the actual brushes, and they come in a nice box that I ended up getting rid of. But everything is just really packaged nicely. So my final thought is, if you're wanting a high quality brush, if you're wanting to invest on something that is going to really do the job and do it well and last long and be of very high quality, then yes, go ahead and purchase these brushes, because they will not let you down. If you are someone that, you know, is just starting off with brushes and you don't want to commit to something so expensive, there are definitely other brands, but I will tell you guys that these are pretty fantastic. And as you guys see, I'm incorporating a lot of these brushes into my everyday use. I take care of them more than I've ever taken care of any brushes. Like, to tell you guys that this Chikuhodo brush, I've probably washed twice since I've gotten it, because I don't want to ruin it. And this is just the same kind of quality that you would find in a Smith brush. So I don't want to ruin it. I find myself cleaning my Smith brushes all the time. I don't know why. I don't know what it is about them, but I want them clean. And I'll tell you guys that no matter how many times I've washed them, they all dry really fast. So I can literally wash them today, and by tomorrow morning when I'm getting ready to do my makeup again, they're ready for use. They're very soft. They don't shed unless you get a bad one, because I had that experience, but they are amazing brushes and definitely worth the quality. So on my end, I will tell you guys that I'm very happy. I have no regrets and I love them. I hope that you guys found this helpful. Let me know down below if you have any other brush recommendations, if you have any questions, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe. I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.